And would you believe it? We are back with another episode of Scale Up Stories. Guys, thank you for joining us, whether it's live or you're listening back via any of your podcast platforms. I'm Ben from Digital Beans, and usually on Scale Up Stories, what we do is chat to local business owners about how they've scaled their business. We went from just chatting to Kent businesses to chatting to businesses from all around the Southeast on how they've managed to grow and expand during recent months, years, and even decades, some of them. We've spoken to a real range of businesses, and I thought it was only adequate for us as Digital Beans and Producing Kent to, at the start of this year, come together and form a partnership. We've both got ambitions to try and drive independent local businesses online, get them experiencing the real world of online custom and the ability to be able to grow their business from within this digital world that we all live in. And when we agreed to that partnership, we had a look at a number of projects down the years. And one of the projects that Producing Kent do that I always follow is the Taste of Kent Awards. So it felt natural at some point this year that we get together and we do something around the Taste of Kent Awards. And luckily, Florgia and the team at Producing Kent agreed to jump on our Scale Up Stories series and do a special Taste of Kent Awards series. Let's call it that. Let's call it series because over the next few weeks, we are going to be sitting down with the faces behind the Taste of Kent Awards and also the finalists who have made it into this year's categories. And we're going to go over those in more details in just a moment. But first of all, Chief Executive of Producing Kent, Florgia, is with me. And Florgia, the Taste of Kent Awards, they mean so much to you guys. They mean so much to all of us and especially the local food and drink producers in Kent. Just tell me, how excited are you that even within this current pandemic, you are able to champion local food and drink in this way?
Very, very excited indeed. And I think it's, after the year that we've had, it is so important to do exactly that. And also very excited that we found a way to do it because it was not very straightforward to come to the decision to do a Taste of Kent Awards. We had a first lockdown and then everything seemed to be going back to normal. And then we entered the second lockdown. So we were thinking, what could we do? Is it going to be a physical event? Is it going to be a virtual event? Is it going to be a hybrid? Is it going to be no event at all, but still, the awards in itself, but in a different form? So we've gone basically through the whole plethora of options. And I think I've come up with a really good solution, which is the voting and judging process is normal this year, a slightly delayed date, a virtual event, and very excitingly, a magazine, a Taste of Kent magazine, the first one ever to celebrate all the finalists and the winners, of course.
Yeah, we'll come back to the magazine in just a moment. I think also we'll come back to this year's voting and just the incredible increase of people voting and getting involved in the awards this year to nominate their favourite food and drink producers and businesses as well alike. But let's start at the very beginning and pretend that none of us have a clue what the Taste of Kent Awards are. Of course, for over 17 years now, you guys have been celebrating Kent's local independent food and drink industry. So tell us in your own words, as one of the key pieces to putting this on year after year, tell us a little bit more about the Taste of Kent Awards.
Okay, so the Taste of Kent Awards are the oldest and biggest food and drink awards in Kent. We have been organising them since 2003. Actually, since before Producing Kent itself came into being. At the time of the first Taste of Kent Awards, we were still called Kentish Fair, believe it or not. So the Taste of Kent Awards is all about local products and local businesses. The provenance, we really want to highlight where the food and drink is coming from. Of course, our beautiful county of Kent. Taste, as it says suggests in the title, plays a big part. This year we are looking at 16 categories, but that has greatly varied over time. So I think that historically a lot has changed since our first awards.
I think this awards ceremony and getting, so to speak, commended and recognised as part of this whole process, even just as finalists, I feel like Taste of Kent Awards has become sort of like a holy grail of local food and local food recognition.
I hope it has. I do feel it has got a lot of recognition. It's a very recognised brand, which again we'll come back to later, which has really shown itself in the voting. So it started purely paper votes via Kent Live, the magazine Kent Live, and then we've evolved it to online voting. We had a lunch, one of our first award ceremony for 50 guests only, last award ceremony, which was still a physical event in March, one of the last big events, I think, in the county before before everything shut down. We had over 350 guests. So even the event itself has grown enormously, and it's really turned into a black tie event, very, very elegant and proper way of celebrating it. And we have now a very big emphasis on Kent food and drink during that event ceremony as well. It's all about celebrating Kent food and drink, not just the winners, but through everything we do. And the number of categories have grown over year as well. So I think in every single aspect, the awards as they started are no longer the awards we have today. And I hope that people recognize it for what it is, a really wonderful way of celebrating all the good that comes out of Kent.
And there's a lot of amazing food festivals out there, which we haven't been able to attend over the past 12 months. But even if you have done beforehand, you would have gone around, had a look at local food and drink producers and saw actually on their physical product, the Taste of Kent Awards badge, so to speak, to say that they've been recognised. For you, does that say it all, Florgia, about how, so to speak, how highly commended these awards are and, so to speak, the meaning behind the awards for not just a consumer when buying products to see that this is actually an award-winning or a nominated product, but also for the people who have produced it, that sense of achievement, putting that badge on their product, it means something to them, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that badge is so enormously important. Mm-hmm. And we thought, that was actually very central to our decision making on the awards for this year. We thought whatever format the ceremony will have, ultimately, it's so important that we let these awards happen, because the winners and the finalists will be able to display that badge, that recognition from the customer for their product and for their business on their product, and that's that will really help them drive sales. It will help them display themselves as a producer of a quality product with a wonderful taste.
That is so true, and I cannot wait. By the way, I know everyone's itching. I cannot wait for being able to get out this summer, potentially to a couple of food festivals or something, to be able to meet the faces as well behind the.
But I think the anticipation of all that, coming back, and people, they're so desperately yearning for that, that normal, back to normality. I think that's really inspired people as well to vote this year for the products, because it was just that, anticipation of being able to drink that cider or beer back in the pub out on the terrace in the sun.
Well, consumer behavior has changed completely. There is definitely a big shift towards supporting local. I think the margins, but before, if you had a look at them, in terms of would someone rather go to a bigger brand or a local brand, I think those margins have definitely evened out somewhat, or have got close to getting to that point. I also think local businesses now more than ever are actually investing money into their business, which is then stemming the growth of, is impacting the growth of these independent businesses, which is just fantastic to see. Like, again, just one example, and I could name many, is Annabelle from Dunk Cookies, in terms of that she launched about 16 months ago, I think it was, and 6 months later, she's now got a factory and her brand's massive. She's got, I think, something like 7 or 8 staff members under her command now, and it's just amazing how there's so many amazing businesses out there. I know also, in terms of a bigger one, you've got the gin, you've got the brewers, you've also got, it's just so many businesses out there, and even farm shops who have adapted to offer click and collect and services like that have managed to profit off of business that they potentially wouldn't have had if the pandemic hadn't have hit, because people want to support local. So I think now is a perfect time to come together and appreciate the Taste of Kent Awards, what they are, what they recognise, because your support has produced in Kent, and the Taste of Kent Awards didn't start because of the pandemic. It dates back years. This has been something, supporting local businesses has been something that's been your bread and butter for years, that people are now, so to speak, starting to catch on and do their own bit. So let's go back to the technicalities of the award quickly and talk about how it works. So let's start at the very beginning. How does someone get nominated?
Right. So we have 16 awards categories, as I said, for this year. They are divided between public voting categories and self-nominated categories. So the public voting categories, the public is voting in those categories what they feel is the best product. So they can literally go online onto our website, choose the category they want to vote in, and then go into that category and see if the name of the product or the business is already there. And if not, they can add it and cast their vote. So this is how we start tallying up public votes for certain products. And then the self-nominated categories are the categories where businesses can just basically submit their application. They have to fill out a form, answer a number of questions on that category, and then we have a number of really experienced and knowledgeable judges who will then help us choose the finalists.
Mm-hmm. So it's a mixture of public vote to get them nominated, and then the judges come in and put their expert eye to it.
Yeah, so in very simply put, all the product categories that you see in the awards categories for this year, all the food and drink categories, plus the hospitality business, plus the retail of the year, they're all public voted categories. And then we have self-nominated categories, which are the Diversification Award, the Kent Food and Drink Business of the Year, Kent Grower of the Year, Kent Sustainable Business of the Year. And then we have a last one, which is the Community Award, which we asked for input from the public, which business they wanted to put forward to it. But it was the Producing Kent team actually who chose the finalists or the heroes in that category. So it's very difficult to make a choice between, community or businesses who have done something for the community, because they've all done a fantastic job. So we've chosen to call them all heroes, and we'll choose one legend on the night itself.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not up for that one, which is a shame. I honestly thought that could be my category. But yeah, no.
Maybe next year, Ben.
Maybe next year. On that, and again, this is going to sound like a really weird question, but how do the judges judge the Taste of Kent Awards? What does it come down to for them?
Well, you've got the public voted categories, the food and drink products, the finalists in those categories. We will have a tasting session where we invite judges, and they're a mix of our sponsors this year, and a few Mutual, Southern Co-op, and Southeastern Rail, and some judges we've worked with for years, who are either experts in a specific area, food or wine, or they bring with them their great expertise and knowledge, it's all about taste in the end, food and drink. So it's a personal, I suppose, decision. But yeah, of course, you bring with you a lot of expertise, and there's loads of wine experts around there, and we work with a very, very, very good one. So we trust he's making the right decision.
Of course. And you don't need me to tell you guys this, by the way. Florgia will tell you there's nothing that tastes better than Kent produce. So when it comes to the Taste of Kent Awards, these are the most prestigious taste awards out there, because our produce and drinks and everything tastes the best. I want to just hit on one thing, though, Florgia, with that. And I think, we can all use our own taste buds to decide what we like and don't like, obviously, when it comes to food. But you have seen, and we spoke about the consumer behavior earlier, you've spoken about how the awards have changed over the years. You have seen a substantial amount of voting growth, let's call it that, this year. Unbelievably, when you have a look at it, you can't have planned for this. The voters have increased by 300% this year. You've had around 41,000 votes. Was that a shock to you when you saw the amount of people jumping in and vote? Or do you think this is just in line with what you have seen in terms of consumers now really biased towards local businesses?
I think it was a great piece of evidence of what we had been saying for months, that consumer behavior was changing. And I think this really underpins that statement. It was not so much a shock as just a wonderful surprise and recognition of what we have been working so hard to establish last year through our campaigns. And what all our members and businesses in the food and drink sectors have been working towards too. I mean, everybody has really pulled it out of the bag. Our local independent food and drink businesses have worked their backsides off, and they have diversified. They have tried new stuff. They, as you say, they have managed to start a business from scratch and build it into something viable and lasting. And that, I think, that for the customer to see that effort right on their doorstep has also strengthened their trust in those products and in those businesses, and has also helped them to change their behavior and say, we want to support this. We want to support local economy. So, Yeah, no, it was a surprise, but let's hope that these votings keep up in the years to come, because I think the world's changing.
With the years to come, do you think that this is sustainable, the bias towards local business? Do you think that will continue when lockdowns have eased? Potentially, will we even see it grow?
But the funny thing is, when lockdown eases, if you look at the first lockdown, people had to start buying local, and then they became convinced that actually it was a really good product, and they wanted to stick with it. But I think the first lockdown movement was much more limited. There was also a certain necessity to buy local, because supermarkets had to some extent disrupted supply chains. You were not really allowed to travel that far, and you could generally see the roads were quiet. We're now in the second lockdown. The supermarkets are well prepared for second lockdown. Supply chains are working properly. People are on the road all the time, but we still buying local, and I think that proves to me that this is here to stay. This is not, once lockdown eases, I don't think we'll see a great return to the supermarkets. And I'm the last one to say, let's not go to the supermarkets at all anymore. Let's just do local. But if we can find a nice mix where we support local business and just make sure that part of our shopping is local, and where we support local where we can, then there's a place for all retail, I think.
Yeah,
in my
I completely agree with that. And quickly, before we jump through and have a look at the nominations for this year and the awards that are up for grabs, so to speak, there's 17 categories this year if you include the Kent Community Award Heroes Award, which you mentioned about a bit earlier on. Does this just showcase how diverse, even within such a niche industry, food and drink within our county, how diverse this awards ceremony actually is?
Yes, and I think to some extent, we had to limit the categories this year because of the format of the awards we were thinking of initially. So it kind of restricted our choice of the categories. So we really had to kind of slot some things together, and I really do believe that possibly we haven't done certain subgroups complete justice in doing that, but we were just forced to do so because of the circumstances. But we could easily extend those categories to past 24. We had 24 categories last year, and they were all well voted for. And there was a lot of submissions in those self-nominated categories. So yes, it absolutely shows the diversity of the sector. There's a lot happening in food and drink at the moment.
Yes, there is, and a lot of good stuff happening, which is a real positive, and what these obviously awards celebrate. And it's really interesting, as Floyd hit on earlier on, and maybe if you've just tuned in, you haven't heard that. The judges obviously have a process that people, consumers nominate. Anyone out there can nominate a business that they feel should be put up for one of the 17 categories for this year. That voting's now obviously closed. As said, votes have gone in. The judges have then had to whittle down all of the nominees that have been nominated to just 3 within each of the 17 categories. And I just want to run through them quickly now, Flodra, and then we'll get some reaction from you afterwards. So if you've not seen this yet, tasteofkentawards.co.uk, nominations the finalists have been announced. Obviously the winners will be announced at the ceremony later this year, which is May the 11th. It is May the 11th, isn't it?
May the 11th is the virtual event. Yes.
Good memory,
Well
Ben. Here's the top 3 in every category then. So Kent Ambient Product of the Year, Ketchup Smoke, which is brisket and barrel, Chili Chup, which is Carrington's, and then Chipotle and Habanero Chili Jam, which is Jam Face Jams. That is sponsored by Southern Co-op. You've got Kent Bakery and Confectionery Product of the Year, again sponsored by Southern Co-op, which is Chocolate Brownie Beardy from the Beardy Bakery, sourdough loaf by Docker Bakehouse, classic raspberry jam donut by the Independent Baker. Then you've got Kent Beer of the Year, Session Pale Ale from Cedarhead Brewing Company. You've got Amber Ale from Romney Marsh Brewery, Hurricane from Once Some Brewery, some good beers in there, by the way. Kent Cider of the Year, you've got Basher Original from Canterbury Cider, Curious Apple from Curious Brewery, Disco from Dunnas Tun Cider, Kent Dairy Product of the Year, Whole Milk from Ben and Holly, Kentish Blue Cheese from King Cot Dairy. By the way, I don't like blue cheese. I've had that blue cheese, and I think it's probably the only blue cheese that I've ever had that I like. But I'm not being biased. Free Range Double Cream from Street Farm Dairy. Kent Non-Alcoholic Drink of the Year. Revive Blend from Bean Smitten. Maple Blend from Garage Roasted. Get to the Hopper Blend from Lost Sheep Coffee. And then we move on to some of the food categories as well. Kent Prepared Food Product of the Year. Original Beer Sticks from Moon's Green. How do you say that? I don't want to do them disjustice.
Charcuterie.
There we go. Not in my vocabulary. Sorry, guys. I will learn. Smoked salmon from Tenkerton Smoke Shed. Pork pie from Morgan's Farm Shop. Kent Spirit of the Year. Anno Kent Dry Gin from Anno Distillers. Dockyard Gin from Copper Rivet Distillery. George Bishop London Dry Gin from Maidstone Distillery. Very much a gin populated category. I'm going to come back to you on that one, Florgia. Kent Wine of the Year. Bacchus from Chapel Down. Herbert Hall Brut sparkling wine from Herbert's Hall Wines. The Mount Vineyard Sparkling Rose 2015 from the Mount Vineyard. And then, of course, Kent Hospitality Business of the Year. The Amber at Canterbury. The Butcher's Block Burham. Cafe Nucleus in Rochester. Kent Food Retail of the Year, Foodari Home Delivery, Quex Barn Birchington, and Watts Farms, which is also obviously online, as is Foodari. Then you've got the Kent Diversification Award, Foodari, the Meatball Company, and Wild Box. Laura's doing a great job there, who we've had on the show in the past. And Kent Food and Drink Business of the Year, Cafe Nucleus, Gusbourne, Kent Crisps, Kent Grower of the Year, Eckley Farm, Paley Farm, and Walmston Growers. Kent Sustainability Award, the Curious Eatery, Goopy, and Provenance Potatoes. And then the Kent Community Award, as mentioned earlier on, and maybe we'll just get a line from Florgia in a moment on this. Emma, Paul and Rani Barbara. You've got Ben from Modern Provider and Ellie and Heather from Olby's Soul Cafe. I tell you what, Florgia, when it comes to having a number of Kent businesses in one place, that is some lineup, and hopefully we're going to hear from near enough every single finalist, or at least a good majority of them, on this podcast in the coming weeks, to learn about their business, learn about their journey, and learn about how much potentially just being a finalist or winning this award will mean to them, especially during these hard times. And let's not forget, and I say this all the time, Florgia, we all might think we have it hard, and there's a lot going on, obviously, for families, and we're all in our unique circumstance. But I don't think there is enough recognition out there for how difficult it is at the moment for business owners and how tough this must be on business owners' mental health. So the fact that they can get some recognition out the back of such a tough year in something like this, it's going to do the world of good for every single business owner on that list. So fantastic. Let's come back to a couple of the categories. Let's start with the Kent Community Award, Florgia. You hit on this earlier on, but just a quick insight and overview in terms of what that award A means, and B, was there more of a twist this year towards people who have potentially helped out more during the pandemic?
Yes, it was very much recognizing the outreach activities by individuals or businesses to the community. So we looked at selfless acts, something that was in addition to their day-to-day business, services offered for free, services offered to different groups, so not just focusing on one specific group, but reaching out to a wider community. Very, very difficult. I mean, everything that's people have done so much, and businesses have done so much, and have really gone out of their way. And this category was us having to choose, which is almost impossible, between nominations that were put in by the public. So the people you see here that were nominated by people who were either recipients of their good services or, they knew them. So yeah, it was a very difficult task, and almost impossible to get it like a range, first, to second, third. It's not possible in this category.
Of course, because even for every single category, for the one business that we've just said out loud that's actually made it through as a finalist, we could probably name 5. And I think that's how strong the Kent food and drink industry actually is, and how talented there are some of the people out there. But obviously the fact that these people are here. Another category that I just want to hit on is the Kent Diversification Award. Again, is that very much in mind, having a look at businesses that have managed to switch up during these tough times and really build a business for themselves? Because even just looking at me knowing and speaking to Laura, what Wild Box have done, she's gone from having obviously a shoe horse, a shoe horse, that's not the same thing, a horse cart to be able to go out to events and serve drink. And she's got this whole local element of her business there, to actually now having a very viable e-commerce business if she decides to want to go down that route with what she's doing. And she's achieved some great things in the last year. So is that what the Diversification Award is mainly about?
So I didn't tell you about the self-nominated categories and how they're being judged. So they have to submit their form, and then they have to answer a couple of questions that we ask them. Why do they deserve this award? What have they done in that area? And then once the finalists are chosen, they go through one-to-one interviews with the two judges. So we're actually these past weeks have conducted all the one-to-one interviews in these categories, as well in the Diversification Award. It is so amazing what these finalists have done, and I mean, to the point that the judges were almost in tears when they listened to the stories. Literally taking something up from scratch out of sheer necessity, because people lost their jobs, didn't know, they had a business which all of a sudden collapsed, and they had to come up with something completely different to simply make it through. And then managing that, and then seeing that idea fruition into actually a viable business with by putting just the hours in, but also um, having that creativity and ability to reach out to people to partner up with and to get advice from, not being afraid to ask advice, but also to have that vision for a longer term strategy. If we're going to diversify into this product or this service, how are we going to keep that a lasting diversification? How are we going to continue this after we return to normal? It's been a really amazing hour and a half of listening, really, to all those businesses.
One other category I do want to hit on is the Kent Spirit of the Year, and I think it more or less does sit in with lockdown drinks and the gin kits we've all been getting, and the way that gin has become this amazingly viral product that everyone's drinking now. The Kent Spirit of the Year category dominated by gins. For you, is that a reflection onto the real world at the moment?
I think gin was having a little bit of a revival already in the last years, and probably this lockdown has kind of brought that out a bit more. I think a lot of companies have also been very good at doing virtual tasting sessions. They've really marketed their product well. So I think that's all helped the public to kind of gravitate towards those brands
100%.
and that particular tipple.
Yes, 100%. And I cannot wait until we can get in a beer garden or something, Flora, and actually have a gin and chat to each other face to face. I cannot wait to be able to see you again out in the
I think you're not alone.
Yeah, 100%. Just finally then, Flora, because obviously we've spoken a lot about the Taste of Kent Awards and what it is as a brand, and sort of what it is as a let's so speaking of an event for brew juiced in Kent now every year, and what that means to consumers, what that means to the businesses. But I haven't spoken about what that means to you. I know how passionate you are as the chief executive of Producing Kent to champion local food and drink within our industry, and how they move forward. You're very passionate in making sure that you can help businesses within the industry get ahead in the game and be competing with bigger brands without losing that local element. So my first question is, what does it feel like for you when it all is said and done, it's ceremony evening, and you've got someone there winning an award in that category? What does that mean for you?
A lot. I think a lot. And it's I think also the awards ceremony hopefully is also a time for people to step back and reflect on what they've achieved and how they've come through this year. I think when you are a business, and especially a small business, and let's be honest, that's who Producing Kent represents mostly, local independent smaller businesses. When you have your business and you set it up from scratch, throughout that journey, you've got very little time to sit back and see what you've actually achieved. There's also often not that many people who will pat you on the back, especially when you put that business up from your sitting room, or from your shed, or from your premises all by yourself. So you've got little time to relax, and I suppose be emotional about what's happened and what you've done and what you've achieved. And I really hope that the ceremony can give that space for people to just relax a bit and just enjoy and enjoy the fact that even if you don't win, you're finalist. Everybody's amazing. Everybody's done an amazing job, and we need to recognize that. And yes, I don't think people always realize how important the role of food and drink is in our economy and in our local economy. we're not reflected in the traditional statistics. People talk about manufacturing, they talk about retail, they talk about hospitality, but they don't talk about food and drink, which kind of sits across all those different categories. And in many ways, we've performed differently from those categories, those traditional categories. So I think it's very important for us to get those statistics together as well, and to show, this is who we are, this is actually what we achieve, and this is the money, the value added we put back into our county and into our community.
110%. Love that, Floria. And again, your passion for our local food and drink industry just is unrivaled. Is absolutely unrivaled. The work you guys are doing at Produced in Kent, and you personally, keep it up. The Taste of Kent Awards are fantastic, and we can't wait to be involved this year and doing these shows and speaking to the finalists and seeing what it means to them, and learning more, about the future of our local food and drink industry, and learning more about the people behind the scenes at these businesses, which some are very much established, some are very much up and coming, which is really exciting for all of us to be at the start of that journey that they're going on, hearing from them. Well, it's just going to be fantastic. So thank you, Floria. Thank you for teaming up with us on this. I think we're going to be doing our first podcast next week with some of the finalists. So please make sure you guys stick around and check that out. Like the Digital Beans page on LinkedIn. Make sure you go and check us out as well on your podcast platform of choice. Just search Scale Up Stories, and you'll be able to find more from us speaking to local food and drink businesses within the county on there as well about their stories. I think we've got one up from Charlotte Fudge Kitchen. I've got a few more going up as well within the coming weeks, so go and check those out. We haven't missed anything out, Floria, have we? I think we've got it right. 11th of May is when the virtual ceremony is going to be. Obviously, you can find out more about the Taste of Kent Awards on their website, find out more about Produced in Kent on their website as well. I think that's it. Have we done it?
Just one last thing. Apart from the virtual event, we are bringing out the Taste of Kent magazine, which will come out on the 17th of May. It is our first ever Taste of Kent magazine. It's a bit of a trial. If it's successful, we'll really try our best to keep bringing that out every year. It will celebrate all the finalists and the winners of the Taste of Kent Awards. This magazine will be available throughout all hospitality venues in Kent. We'll have a paper version, but also an electronic version, and we just hope that everybody will share it as widely as they possibly can, because this is the best way to promote and champion food and drink.
Definitely. Am I allowed to mention the guys who you're collabing with on this?
Yes, absolutely. We're working together with Scene Magazine, and they're doing a fantastic job. I
think it's important to say that as well, because I think Scene Magazine are another one of those companies that have expanded over recent years, and especially within the last 6 months as well, and some of their offerings through the pandemic to help local businesses. So I definitely 100%. You just know, but it's straight away saying now, obviously this year's a trial. It's only a bit different, but Scene Magazine are part of the collab on that, and you just know it's going to be a fantastic, let's call it what it is, product, and because they are great at what they do.
They bring their fantastic style to the mag as well. It's gonna look really, really good.
Well, Floria, thank you for your time. We're going to hear from some finalists from next week. Keep up to date with the podcast. This is a special series where Scale Up Stories collabs with the Taste of Kent Awards, and we learn more about those businesses that are up and are finalists and potentially going to grab an award on the 11th of May when the ceremony for the Taste of Kent Awards happens. Guys, thank you for watching. Stay safe out there, and you'll hear more from us next week. Ciao for now.
Thank you.